This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
Where's the beat? And that's when you're wrong.
Go ahead. It's my day.
And the masters of the universe.
Finger to endurance like TV Guy.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Y'all pity the fool.
And we welcome you to What the 80s here on the PFC Entertainment Network. She is Jill Bain. I am Jason Klaus. Appreciate you tuning in here this week. We're going to get back to a more familiar type of format for this show. It's something that people have come to appreciate. And, with this new chapter of 80s nostalgia here on the PFC Entertainment Network, some of these lists may be revisits or a different take on them because now we have Jill to give her 2 cents in on this, and it's going to be, especially with this one, we didn't want to, be too much. So we're going to tackle a topic here today that is going to be easy to digest. I have a list to my left here that we're going to dive into. Coming off of a deep dive on the curse of Poltergeist last week. So this is going to be a nice departure. It's not going to be nearly as heavy on this particular episode. Jill, how are you doing today in the fine metropolis that is Saginaw area, Michigan?
Not too shabby. It's a little cold,
Sure.
but not too shabby.
Yeah, as we're recording this, we are. This is what we call the Arctic vortex, the polar vortex. Very much on full display, but that comes to be expected when you live in the great state of Michigan. Just wait 20 minutes and the shit will change. Just make no mistake about it.
I mean, our state is shaped like a piece of winter apparel, so.
It's not called the mitten because we needed a cute catchphrase. That's for sure. That's for sure. How's things? You doing okay?
Doing pretty good.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. And as a programming note, you can also hear Jill and her daughter Judy on Creepy Soup, which drops on Sundays here on the PFC Entertainment Network. So if you're into true crime, if you're into the supernatural, this type of content, then by all means, check out Creepy Soup Sundays here on the PFC Network. Now, last week, we discussed briefly, we didn't get, tremendously deep into the woods about it, but we discussed this controversy with TikTok and, the way the recordings happened. Very soon after we had that conversation, we discovered that TikTok was reinstated, for the lack of a better term. So it leads me to this question. Are you going to be able to track your shit that you've ordered from the TikTok shop? Because I know this was a source of contention for you.
I definitely should be able to. I do have one package that I was supposed to have before New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, we're very close, getting close to the end of January mark. I still don't have it. And it said there was going to be a delay, and we had in Michigan had that snowstorm that, could have helped cause it.
Sure.
But it was like stuck in Detroit for I can't tell you how long. And then the next time it was that way for quite some time. And then I checked it. It was in New York. What the fuck? And I still don't have that package.
Really?
Yeah. And all it is, it's one of those, like a suction cup magnetic phone holders.
Well, I guess you weren't the only one who needed one of those on that particular day.
No, what I need to do now is, now that we have TikTok back, watch those people that open the undelivered mail packages, pallets that they get, and I'll be like, that's mine.
I'll tell you, that's one thing about TikTok. No matter what you're into, chances are you're going to find something on there that's going to keep you engaged and entertained. All depending on the mood that I'm in. My algorithm is all over the fucking place. Like obviously there's wrestling stuff on there. There's Detroit Lions things on there, baseball, obviously, but I'm really into the actual raw wildlife videos, like the lions and tigers and that are actually going out and hunting their prey. Like I don't know why I enjoy watching those, but you give me an unedited video of a lion taking down a giraffe, you have my attention, because it's like that. It don't get no more real than that. You ain't scripted shit,
right?
That's real stuff there, and like I'm fascinated by that. Would I go on a safari to watch it up close? Fuck no, I wouldn't. But from the comforts of my couch or whatever,
absolutely.
Yep, I'm here for it. And kangaroos creep me out.
You know
they
what?
Fascinate me.
You know what? Like, I grew up with Winnie the Pooh characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Kanga and Roo, and they were just the kindest, sweetest. And there's this one, I've seen it multiple times on different platforms, where the kangaroo is holding on to this dude's dog, and this dude has to beat the shit out of the kangaroo. And I'm like, they're fucking mean. Winnie the Pooh lied to us.
These bitches look like they're on steroids.
Yes.
They are creepy looking. Like their claws are. This is not the same motherfucker that was in the Looney Tune cartoons. You mentioned Winnie the Pooh. I'm thinking Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Where Sylvester the cat thinks it's a big ass mouse, but it's really a kangaroo. But he's all cute and stuff. That is not the case in real life.
No,
these things are creepy. Even Crocodile Dundee, like they try to present them and look, make no mistake, I know they are what they are, but look, I went to a zoo several years ago, and you went through the kangaroo exhibit, and there's big ass signs, you cannot miss them. Stay on the path, and if one approaches you, stop and do not move until it moves on. Well, fuck all that. Like, my son was like 3 years old at the time, and I'm like, ain't no way I'm putting him in that kind of, because if I can't protect him, why am I going to do anything that's going to put him in harm's way? Because these bitches are they creepy.
Yeah, it's got a pouch to carry that baby away.
Right. You said something about the one that had the dog. What it conjured up in my mind. Have you ever seen the movie Signs with Mel Gibson?
Yes.
So that one scene towards the climax of the movie where the alien is in the house and he's got his son and he's just sitting there bouncing with him. That's what that made me think of about the dog. Like, he's got the dog under one arm. Come on, motherfucker. come get your dog.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
kangaroos. And I have seen multiple videos where people are fighting kangaroos, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. PETA has
Kangaroos
got to
fighting
love
each
that.
other is scary enough.
Right. No. Mm-mm.
Knocked your bag.
Not at all. I mean, like you said, watching them is great, but
Right.
would I ever? Nope. Nope.
You know, yeah, the Komodo dragon is another scary motherfucker that is swallowing animals whole. Just they come out of nowhere. And back in the day, you know, as a wrestling fan, we saw this rivalry between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Jake the Snake Roberts. Well, Jake the
Mhm.
Snake is known for having a
A
20-foot
snake.
python with him.
Yeah.
So Steamboat brings out a Komodo dragon with him. And I never understood why its mouth was always taped shut. And seeing real video of what a real Komodo dragon can do, I now understand why. Those sons of bitches would eat a small child if they could get a hold of it. So, duly noted. Yeah,
Yeah.
scary. Well, we have a list.
Do you have like the sound effects thing, like applause? Woo.
Hang on. Let me try that again. I have a list. Ask and you shall receive. Thank you. Thank you. Jill, this week we're going to be looking at what Ranker.com has listed as the most popular TV shows of the 1980s. Not just comedies,
Jeez.
not just dramas, not just your buddy cop films. These are what they have deemed the most popular TV shows of the 1980s.
What was your favorite?
Oh, man. For me, it was Family Ties. Loved
Okay.
Family Ties.
I would say as I got older, honestly, I was, when Fox came out,
Mm-hmm.
I was a huge fan of the shows on Fox because they were so different
Yeah.
from other stuff we had seen. So I would say my top two favorites as a teenage girl when it came out, 21 Jump Street
Sure.
and Married with Children.
Married with Children changed the game. And
Everywhere.
it doesn't get enough love for that.
Mhm.
That show was so anti everything that was
Yep.
network television.
Oh, yeah. And
Parents
they even
would,
made fun of Fox with getting your Fox viewing positions, and they're all holding rabbit ears. And it was so funny because the other day, we were standing in the kitchen, and I said something to my husband, and he said, "No, ma'am, we have a whole group, no, ma'am," referring to the No Ma'am club that Al Bundy had.
it's that like parents wouldn't let kids watch that show because they looked at it as smut TV.
Yeah.
I remember my mom calling it that smut TV. So I mean, we saw it, but it wasn't until later on. Like if we got caught watching it during its original run, we got scoffed at. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like, okay, we don't want to. It's not worth losing my TV privilege over. So, you know, that was not the hill I was going to die on.
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah. But no, those are my two favorites.
I hear you. I can understand why. You know, I think you think of the TV shows in the 1980s, man, and there's just so many of them. The you know, Family Ties, as far as a sitcom goes, like Michael J. Fox was a huge influence on me
Yeah.
as a kid in terms of how I presented myself, you know, in a school environment. I wore a suit and tie to school because Alex P. Keaton did.
Yeah.
You know, I got teased mercilessly between that, having a stuttering problem, and being a wrestling fan, I was fucked, but I didn't care. That's who I was, and I knew that. I was very, I knew from a very early age who and what I was and what I wanted to be, and I wasn't wavering on that for anything. I didn't need to be popular, you know,
Right.
because I had bigger goals in mind than worrying about if that dude liked me or if that girl thinks I'm cute. I didn't give a fuck.
Right.
So, but I think of like the A-Team. I think of Knight Rider,
Mhm.
the Dukes of Hazzard. Like that is a genre of shows that, you know, if they're on, if I've got nothing else going on and they're on, I'll stop and watch them.
Yeah.
It's controversial as he wound up being. Like the Cosby Show set the bar in the 1980s. There wasn't a bigger show in the 80s than the Cosby Show. Really? Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before.
I hated it.
So then a different world just didn't come across.
You know what?
your
That
radar.
one I didn't mind that much. I really didn't. That one I would watch. It wasn't must see TV for me, but I would watch it.
Okay. What was it about the Cosby Show that you hated so much?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, because even now, like different TV shows, people will post clips of different TV shows like on TikTok or Facebook Reels or whatever. And I skip over those. Some of them I'll watch. Some of them I won't. But yeah, I'm just not a fan.
I can understand. I can appreciate, especially nowadays, you know, everything that's happened with Bill Cosby,
Yeah.
you know, with, you know, date rape and all this other shit that, you know, came down the pike for him. You know, just about every platform, every network pulled his show off the air. Well, now, X amount of years after the fact, it's slowly but surely starting to make its return to different, you know, lower tier cable outlets and streaming apps.
And you know, I will add this. I was excited to watch it because, and I can't tell you how many times I watched it, was like one of the stand-up specials, Bill Cosby himself.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that, I can't tell you how many times. So then, like, hearing it and him talking about his wife and his kids and chocolate cake for breakfast and all this stuff, when he came out, like when the show came out, I was rather excited, but I was highly disappointed. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and I can understand why. You know, especially himself came out 82,
Something
83?
like that.
Yeah. And the show debuted in 84, I feel like. And it wasn't his stand-up stuff.
No.
It was, you know, he was domesticated and, you know, the patriarch of, you know, this big family, successful family. I don't know. There were the dynamic between he and his son on that show, Theo, played by Malcolm Jamal Warner. To me, that's what kind of set the charm of the show, was his dumbass kid with, you know, because he played a doctor and, you know, just that dynamic. And at that time, man, Cosby became known as America's dad.
Yeah.
Based solely on that show. And, you know, like he wrote books about it, and, you know, it really became part of who he was. So when these allegations started coming down years after the fact, it's like, damn, that this is one of the most disappointing downfalls I've ever seen, you know, because I was a fan of his. You mentioned himself, the stand-up himself. He followed that up with one called 49, which was released by Kodak Pictures. Kodak, the film company.
Jesus Christ, I haven't heard that in a long time.
Their film division didn't last very long, but this was their biggest endeavor. They took the broadcast rights for another stand-up special, and it was to celebrate the eve of his 50th birthday. And he talks about some funny shit on there too, but it wasn't on that same level as himself was. That one was, like the dentist, the whole bit about the dentist, and he's talking like how your mouth feels when it's numbed up,
Yep.
That shit was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole dad is great. Gave me some chocolate cake.
There's wheat. There's milk. There's eggs.
Yeah.
The logic was spot on.
Spot on. You couldn't deny that logic.
Mm-mm. Oh, great. All right. Well, let's see if Mr. Cosby lands on this countdown this week of the most popular shows in the 1980s. Starting off here is L.A. Law.
That show.
Did you?
Yes.
This was not my genre. The court drama thing really wasn't my bag until Boston Legal spun off from The Practice.
Okay.
Now that would happen, in the 2000s, but that is really the only law related show. Like, I didn't get into Law and Order. I've seen several of the SVU episodes, but it just isn't my preferred go-to. I was very familiar with this show. You couldn't turn it on NBC without seeing an ad for this thing. Had a lot of big names in it: Corbin Burnson, Jimmy Smits, Jill Eikenberry, Michael Tucker. I'm very familiar with the show. I just didn't watch it. You had an interest in this kind of genre from an early age, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, obviously showing my age, but I can remember watching when I was little with my mom, Heart to Heart. Beretta. There was another one that she used to watch all the time. Huh?
Kojak.
Yep, she watched that. There was another one she used to watch that was from the 70s. So, honestly, that was instilled in me probably from birth, because that's the kind of shit my mom watched.
I get that. I get that. I like a lot of the shows that I remember from a very. If these ads don't stop fucking up my list, man, these ads will pop up and then it takes the page right back to the top, and it's pissing me off. Taxi.
Yep.
Soap. I remember watching Soap. I remember watching All in the Family. I remember, and then we also watched the ones from the Leave It to Beaver and those real wholesome shows from the 50s and 60s, Brady Bunch, that type of thing. But as far as my mom's influence, Soap and Taxi really stand out. Soap was just so far off the fucking rails. It was a satire of soap operas, but the way they presented it was so extraordinary, and Taxi just had a different feel to it all to itself. Very gritty, kind of dark. It wasn't in an established house setting like a lot of these other sitcoms were. It was in a taxi garage in New York City. So I can appreciate that, but I as far as Law and Order type of shows, the closest thing that I can come to it is Starsky and Hutch, or something along those lines. Love Starsky and Hutch. That car was fucking amazing. Hardcastle and McCormick was another one a lot of people don't talk about. Do you remember Hardcastle and McCormick?
I remember it, but I don't think that was one I watched.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't. That's why it didn't last very long. But next on our list is one that did resonate with a long run, Magnum PI, starring Tom Selleck. This debuted in 1980. It had 32 Emmy nominations. It would win 10 during the course of the show. This put Tom Selleck on a global scale as a true American sex symbol. This guy was all over the fucking place. What I thought this was one of my dad's favorite shows.
Never saw
So
it.
when I think of Magnum PI, I think of my dad. And what was cool about it is that he would wear the Detroit Tigers ball cap. And
Yeah.
In the year that the Tigers won the World Series, which was '84, that next season they actually brought Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker onto the show, and they had a small cameo appearance on there. Magnum PI, where was that on your radar?
Never watched it.
No.
Nope. Never watched it.
Now, this next one here debuted in the 70s, but its run lasted into the 80s. One of the more controversial and polarizing shows. It was a spin-off from the aforementioned. Huh?
Jeffersons?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Used to watch it.
I did too. I watched it as a kid, not understanding what I was watching entirely.
Same.
You go back when you're a little older and you're rewatching these episodes and knowing what you know now and what a commentary this show was on society for this demographic, this race of people, and how they were treated, how they viewed the world. And it was very controversial in casting, because the primary characters were African American married couple. Their neighbors was a mixed couple.
Yep.
A African American woman had married a white man. And the undertone of this show, because of the time it came out and what it spun off from, which was All in the Family, very polarizing show.
Yep.
Something that could never be done in this day and age.
Never.
But you got to see the flip side of perceived racism from All in the Family to the Jeffersons. And you got to see this play out in a comedic way, but there was very serious undertones to the show. I specifically remember the episode where George goes back and recounts the day Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And that episode will always, like that, it startled me watching it as a kid. And I knew enough then, like, wow, this is fucked up. But to watch that play out through George's eyes, because we had already known who he was as a character, as a man, as a character, to see how he reacted to that was one of the most startling things I had seen at that point. But what a great show it turned out to be. And the show received a record 13 Emmy nominations in 1981. And, one of the low-key MVPs of the show was Isabel Sanford, who played Louise. She was great on that show.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I watched it when it was out. I haven't seen an episode since. So it's been a long time since I've seen it. But I remember just loving her. Just thinking, like, she would be such an awesome mom.
Yeah, we made mention of The Neighbors. It was the first time in American television history that featured an interracial couple.
Yeah.
So that, they broke all kinds of barriers with this show unapologetically, and it obviously resonated
and
with
wasn't
the audience.
The wife Lenny Kravitz's mother?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Next up. Now, you said Magnum PI was not on your radar. You didn't watch the show. Where were you at on Miami Vice?
Never watched it.
I wasn't allowed to watch it. You know why? Because in the opening, in its open, there's that scene where there's big boobs bouncing on the beach. My mom saw that and said I couldn't watch the rest of the show. And here's, to be fair, this show was geared towards the next age group beyond me, like the teenage years, the late, mid to late teenage years. That's what they regard. This show came on Friday nights at 10 o'clock. It came on at Friday nights at 10 o'clock for a reason.
Right.
They pushed the creative envelope, in terms of language and things that were filmed and what was on television at that time.
Right.
And Don Johnson became nothing short of a sex symbol in the 1980s.
Yeah, and I just didn't see it.
I didn't understand the hoopla around him because as an actor, he didn't really do a whole hell lot. He annoyed me more than anything. It's like he tried too hard to be a sex symbol. The other dude,
Michael
Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was three first names. I just couldn't remember the order. Stop it.
He was cool. He played the good sidekick, but like the Don Johnson character was just a little too much for me.
Yeah. I couldn't see it. No.
I do love how they spoofed it in The Wedding Singer, though. Adam Sandler's movie. You're gonna be okay. You might miss Miami Vice. No reruns. Oh, fun. All right. Where are you at on Dallas?
Never watched that show either.
Jill. Okay. But you're aware of it.
Yeah.
Who shot JR and the phenomenon that created.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the first great cliffhangers. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Even if you didn't watch the show, you couldn't go into the supermarket without seeing something on either TV Guide or the National Enquirer or some other rag that was around the checkouts. Very bold letters. Who shot JR?
Yep, it was everywhere. Even other shows made mention of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a testament to Larry Hagman.
Yeah.
Creating a character that is so vile, so despised. Like people forget that he did I Dream of Jeannie, where they forget everything else that he had done because he played this role
so well,
so damn well. The entire nation hated him.
Yeah.
So who was the one that pulled the trigger? And back then, man, there was like a good 4 months between seasons. So that whole summer, it seemed like that's what everybody was waiting for, to find out who shot
JR.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I remember all that, and I remember I can think of cast members, but it was, to me, the only soap operas I ever really watched was the daytime ones when I was homesick from school.
What was your go-to?
Days. Yeah.
Same. Yep. Patch and Kayla.
Yeah.
I remember. I remember them. It took place in Salem.
Yep.
Yep. I remember that. Bo. I remember there was a Bo.
Yeah.
I remember days. Listen to this stupid ass number. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
350 million people around the world tuned in to find out who shot J.R. Ewing in 1980. 350 million people.
That's
what that relates
crazy.
to. 76% of all U.S. televisions that were on that night was on fucking Dallas.
Jesus. That is a crazy number, but that is such a marketing ploy that was genius. Because I bet you they didn't have those numbers before.
Mm-mm.
I mean, it was always a highly rated show. That I remember.
Right.
But that is an insane number.
That brought people to the show that never watched a fucking episode.
Yep.
They just wanted to witness what everybody else was talking about.
Right. Like a
did-
bandwagon fan.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, nowadays, you know, we can, like Yellowstone is really one of the more recent ones that everybody seemed to be talking about. And you had to get the streaming app to watch the show. Well, now it's on different platforms. I still haven't watched it, even though it's on, I believe, Peacock. I have a subscription to Peacock.
Peacock, Paramount. I don't know. I haven't watched it either. And I keep hearing, oh, you have to. And here's the thing. I'm surprised I haven't. I am a Kevin Costner fan. And
That's why I haven't watched it. He's the reason why I haven't watched it. I am not a fan.
Oh, see,
he annoys the fuck out of me.
I love Kevin Costner.
He was decent in Field of Dreams. I do enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
I think more for James Earl Jones, but be that as it may. I appreciated his role in Man of Steel. He played Superman's Earth Father.
Yep.
I got it. He gets sucked up in the tornado. Probably why I am okay with watching him in that. Because he doesn't last very long. But I just can't, man. Much like Don Johnson. I just felt like it was.
Oh, see, then
too
you would
much.
hate Tin Cup because they're in that movie together.
Yeah. Prime reason why I've never seen that movie.
That's one of my favorites, honestly. I love that movie.
Did that have Kelly Preston in it? Who was
Renee
the woman?
Russo.
Renee Russo. Okay, she's another one. I'm a fan. Renee Russo's
I love her part in that movie. I love that part in that movie.
Well, this particular one is very popular. It ranked also at number 2 on the best sitcoms of the 1980s. A place where everybody knows your name.
Cheers.
Jill. Yeah. Where you at with Cheers?
I loved Cheers, but it took me years to even watch it. And maybe we talked about this before. I couldn't watch it for a long time because Ted Danson was in a TV movie where he did some not so nice things to a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he played that part so well, I hated him. And I couldn't watch him for years. And then I did. And I love that show.
Yeah, it was. I'm with you on that. It would be years after its original run that I would pay attention to it. Although my parents, my mom, back in the day, you know, we've talked about Columbia House before. You know, with the cassette tapes and stuff like that. Well, they did movies too on VHS tape. They were subscriptions.
Yep.
And Cheers was one of their subscriptions. So every month, my mom would get a VHS tape in the mail with like 4 episodes on it. You know, not seasons. These were episodes. Had like 4 episodes per tape.
Yep.
That's how I started getting into it. Started watching it from a very early age, and there was a lot of concern. I remember there was a lot of concern when Shelley Long left the show and Kirstie Alley came in to replace her. Would they be able to maintain that success? Well, they did, and then some.
Yeah.
So that was a testament to the longevity of the show to make that kind of casting change midway through the series and still maintain as one of the top comedies
Yeah,
of
because
all
that
time.
doesn't happen a lot when you have a major character leave and bring in someone else to proverbially fill their shoes. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you who you preferred.
Oh, Rebecca.
Oh, 100%.
Kirstie Alley, yeah.
100%. I
She
hated Shelley Long's character.
was a bitch.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Kirstie Alley was too, but
She was a
she
funny
didn't
bitch.
come off as a pompous bitch.
Yeah.
She, I think that was my biggest issue is Shelley Long just had this air about her that she was just better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And she talked with that stupid fucking accent, and it's like, no, the dynamic's not there.
Nope.
But Kirstie Alley comes in, and she completely changes the entire tempo of the show for the better, in my view.
Yep. Loved her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You look at other shows like, well, let's use Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for an example. The Aunt Vivian role, not as prominent as Shelley Long or Kirstie Alley's role in Cheers, but still a significant part of the show. They made a casting, change in that, and it really did more damage to it. I felt like if that had not happened, that show would have lasted a little bit longer than it did, but people just checked the fuck out. They couldn't buy into it anymore.
Yeah.
No matter what they did, it just wasn't the same. The chemistry was off.
Yeah. Big time.
Okay. One of my faves, the A-Team.
Now, I watched it, but not regularly.
No. I don't imagine, but it really wasn't geared
Towards girls.
towards you.
No.
You weren't the demo for it. We were.
Yeah.
You had Mr. T, you had the van. It was very military based, very action adventure, explosions, fights, pretty women every now and again with the whole face character on there. Murdoch was the comedy relief. Hannibal Smith was the conscious. Then you had Mr. T coming off of Rocky 3, and Mr. T is one of those 80s icons. Like you go right ahead and put him on the Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah.
When you think of the 1980, that motherfucker was everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it's because of this show for sure. A big fan of the A-Team. And it's one of those two where they did the reboot or the remake into a movie.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed the A-Team movie that they did. I thought it was perfectly cast.
I did watch that. Roy said, "Watch this with me," and I'm like, "Fine." And I enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah. Pissed me off that they ruined the van in the first 5 minutes of the show, but seriously though, they like the people that they had cast in those roles. Bradley Cooper, his face was perfect.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson, I'm not a real big fan of his, but I really appreciated his portrayal of Hannibal Smith. I don't remember who they had play Murdoch. He wasn't really a well-known mainstream actor, but very good in what he did. And Rampage Jackson as the BA character. I mean, if you're not going to get Mr. T, he's the next best thing, and so I really appreciated it. All right, so you didn't do Dynasty.
Nope.
So I would imagine, or I'm sorry, Dallas. So I imagine, I fucked myself up. So I imagine Dynasty wasn't on your radar either.
No.
This is another one of those long-running prime-time soap opera gimmicks. John Forsythe, Linda Evans, Joan Collins, Heather Locklear, It's the first time we got to see her on a regular national stage. Of course, she would go on to marry Tommy Lee of Motley Crue. This series received 67 nominations and 24 wins, including the Golden Globes for Best Television Series Drama in 1984. Best Performance by an Actress, Linda Evans. If there was like I hate to use this analogy, but if you're going to use like the Twin Tower reference, it was Dallas and Dynasty.
Yep.
For a particular genre of people for a long ass time. Those were the two pillars.
Yep.
We talked a little bit about this show before we really got into the list. The Cosby Show checks in at number 2 here. You know, we've spent some time already dissecting this, so we won't spend a tremendous amount of time, but I will make mention. The Cosby Show was the most watched TV series in the nation from 1985 to 1989. Received 58 nominations, 55 wins, including Golden Globe for Best Television Series, Comedy or Musical in 1987. Primetime Emmys for Outstanding Comedy Series in 85 and 87. But this show was the anchor of must-see TV on Thursday nights for NBC. Before Friends, before any of this shit, The Cosby Show is what set the bar.
Yep. Can I guess number 1? Or try to?
Go ahead.
Would it be Golden Girls?
Damn, Jill. How do you do that?
I don't know.
Yes, it is the Golden Girls.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Premiered September 14th, 1985. It earned 40 wins among 88 nominations, including a Golden Globe for Best Television Series and Emmys for Outstanding Comedy Series. This show at this point has become cult classic. This show had the rejuvenation of interest and popularity of this show. I know 400-pound professional wrestlers that love this show.
Yeah.
I remember watching a show with my grandmother on the weekends that we would stay the night over at her apartment because my brother and I did that so she wasn't lonely, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like we would take our VHS movies over there, but before we could watch the likes of Masters of the Universe or Over the Top or something along these lines, we watched her shows, which included 227, Amen, and The Golden Girls.
Okay.
Now, and I've seen a lot of this thing on social media about a reboot or about a movie that's coming out that have casted some of the alumni from Saturday Night Live in the women's roles here.
Oh, I have seen that.
Amy Poehler, I believe, is part of this. I don't know if it's real or if it's AI, but I was like, oh shit.
See, I've heard both. I've heard that yes, it's happening, and then I've heard no, this is just AI bullshit. Which, look, I'm not gonna lie, I would watch that shit. I would watch it.
I feel like a lot of other people would too. You know, it's just they're all over the place now. You go into just about any store now. Like I walked into Meijer the other day and there's a Golden Girls t-shirt, you know, like they don't remember having these in the stores in, you know, in 1985 when this show first right. came out.
I know I had a friend of mine used to have a small business. I think we talked about this before. She made shirts and I had got one. It was a Betty White with the middle finger and it says fresh out of fucks. And then the same friend that had this business would do like mystery boxes. You would just tell her like, she already knew I like spooky type shit. And it's like the 4 faces and they're like skeletons and it says Golden Ghouls.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun. Let's look down what was beyond the top 10 here, underneath the top 10, just to get, because shows like L.A. Law, like that one was the first one. I was like, God damn it, really? Newhart, Taxi. Stand by, another fucking ad popped up, knocked me right to the back to the top of the
Now, was
list.
it Newhart where they ran that bed and breakfast, or was it the Bob Newhart show? Because I don't remember, but I remember I watched that one.
I will be honest. Newhart was where they own and operate a small inn in Vermont.
Yep.
And we saw Larry, Daryl, and his brother Daryl. What was cool about this show was how they ended it, because they made it seem like the entire series was a dream that Bob Newhart had, and he wakes up next to his wife from his previous show, which was the Bob Newhart show.
Yep.
So to tie all that in was brilliant.
Genius.
Fucking
Yes.
writing.
That was amazing.
So good. Taxi, I mentioned. Family Ties is here. Night Court. Surprised Night Court didn't rank a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Hill Street Blues.
Never really watched it.
I didn't. I knew of it. Didn't care for it. Murder, She Wrote. Simon and Simon. You remember that show?
Yeah.
It's another one my dad used to watch. Gerald McRaney and Jameson Parker was in that. Gerald McRaney, I just watched the series called This Is Us. Are you familiar with this show?
I've heard of that one, but haven't watched it. I've heard it's like a tearjerker, and look, I don't need reasons to cry.
Listen, Jill, my girl and I watched this show. This was like our show, and she said, "Look, we should watch this." I'm like, all right. I was kind of reluctant, but I'm not going to tell her no. She wants to watch a show, we'll watch a show. From episode 1, when you realize what's happening, you're like, oh, this is not your typical drama. The way it's written, the way it's edited, the way it all comes together. I'm like, you have my fucking attention. It lasted 6 seasons. There's like 108 episodes. It is worth every single fucking one of them. The storyline, yeah, it pulls at your heartstrings, but it's real life shit that people can relate to. It is so well done, so well written. Gerald McRaney has a very small role in this, but is one of the most impactful parts. It's part of the heart of the show overall, and he played a very small role in that. So to see him, there's a picture of him from Simon and Simon, then I think of what I just seen him looking like on this other show, and I'm like, damn, this dude's been around a long ass time, and he's done some very cool shit. The Final Battle, and that's all they're going to give us. So, so many other shows that they could have listed on here for the 80s, but for a list, we had some fun butchering this one a little bit.
Yeah, it was a good list.
Nothing like going down memory lane. And
yeah, I'm thinking, because there was one I was going to say I was surprised with, Designing Women.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one. And you mentioned Gerald McRaney, and that's what made me think of it, because he was married to Delta Burke.
Yep. Yeah, for a long time, too.
If they're both still alive, I think they're still married, aren't they?
I believe so, but up until we started watching the show, I hadn't thought about Gerald McRaney since he was in the A-Team movie.
Right.
He played a role in that, and when he popped up on This Is Us, I was like, holy shit! There's several actors that make appearances on that show that you haven't seen or you forgot about in a long ass time. Felicia Rashad
Oh,
pops
wow.
up on there,
Okay.
and this show ran from 2016 to 2022, so it's fairly recent.
Yeah.
And you're like, huh, that's Claire Huxtable. God damn. And, she's a bitchier version of Claire Huxtable.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of actors like that kind of pop in when you're like, oh my God, how did they land that dude or that girl? But
Yeah.
if you're into watching a new show that, gets a little emotional, but is amazing storytelling, amazing writing, you're going to fall in love with the characters. You're going to be able to relate to at least one thing they got going on. Very rarely do I ever go out on a limb like this, but This Is Us is one of those shows, and I'm a huge fan. And I found out that the three of the actors started a podcast. So what they've done is they go back and rewatch the show, then they come on and do all the behind the scenes shit.
Oh,
So
okay.
fascinating. And I'm
Okay.
like, so now it gives me reason to rewatch it. See?
Okay. That's
Anywho, we made mention, we'll say it again. You can check out Jill and her daughter Judy on Sundays on Creepy Soup. What you guys got working up on over there? You guys have a list of topics that you're looking to tackle this year, or do you just kind of go on
no,
the fly?
but I would like to make a list so we're more organized. We just kind of, are you covering one this week or you want me to do it? You can do it because I'm working crazy hours and blah, blah, blah. So Judy is very passionate about missing person cases.
Mm-hmm.
And there was in one of the Facebook groups I follow, there was a lady that brought up this missing person case. And, she was like, we want to get on like some shows or like this podcast. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to throw my invitation out there. And then she was like, well, I'd have to get a hold of his mom or his baby's mom because I'm not family. Okay. But I figured, you know what? This kind of got the ball rolling. I'm like, let's do a whole episode where we like do a screen share of these missing person cases. And so we got that. I do want to reach out to a couple of venues to see about like doing some live things kind of stuff. And but yeah, we need to sit down and outline some topics.
Well, I'm sure whatever you guys come up with, it's going to be good shit, because that show is set apart from everything else that we do here on the network. And again, you can check them out on Sundays here on the PFC Entertainment Network, here on the traditional RSS feed, as well as the Creepy Soup YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out. Hit the like and subscribe button. Get notified every time a new episode drops, either here on the PFC Network or on the Creepy Soup YouTube page. And check out their merchandise, Creepy Soup, pfc.printify.me, or PFC Store. That's our main online store, pfcstore.printify.me, for all the latest merchandise. And anything else you want to throw out there before we put a bow on this week's episode?
No, I don't think so. Just same shit, different day.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, depending, hopefully everybody's staying warm, during the winter months here in the state of Michigan and beyond, but especially right here as we're recording this. Who knows what it's going to be like by the time this show actually drops? But as we're recording, it is cold AF, as the kids say.
Yep.
So hopefully we get something of a break from that. But be that as it may, go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we will see you next time on What the 80s here on the PFC Entertainment Network.